Hi everyone. Today I'm interviewing Jeremy Miller, who's a young entrepreneur for Ben's Business Podcast, episode number 88. So we're just getting him on live here. Okay, I'm just waiting for Jeremy to join me here. I'll just give a quick introduction about who Jeremy is and why I'm interviewing him and what we're going to talk about today. So Jeremy started entrepreneurship at the age of 16, and what he actually used entrepreneurship was as a vehicle for helping other people, creating community, and for actually an escape from his own depression. And he's been very open about sharing what he used entrepreneurship for in terms of that, and that was a big part of the driving force to help himself, therefore to help others. So at age 16 he opened a longboard business, and we'll need to ask him a wee bit more about that. From age 16, so he would have been in high school, and then at age 20 he launched a tech startup and started a non-profit called STARTedUp, which you can learn more about today as well. He co-founded that one, and then he was also featured around age 20, featured on Forbes. And this is him joining us just now. Says you're being added on the screen here. So his Forbes feature was number one trending article in December 2017, and it was ranked number one for the search Forbes Entrepreneurship or Forbes Entrepreneur, which was actually getting searched around 17 million times. It was also in the same year one of the top 25 social media influencers. We're having a wee bit of problem getting Jeremy on here.
All
There
right.
you are.
Okay. Hey, sorry
Hi.
about that. I was trying to join on my laptop, but it was having some difficulties.
Yeah, no worries. I've tried through the laptop before. We need to be laptop to laptop from my understanding. Anyway,
Ah,
we've
gotcha.
got you in the end. So I've done a wee introduction about who you are
Yeah,
and
I
what you're
appreciate that.
doing.
Thank you.
Well, we've been waiting to get you on. Do you want to do a wee bit of introduction about yourself as well? Who you are and what you do, what your purpose is?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And Ben, I appreciate you having me on this your podcast and this show. Checked out your Facebook group and some of your previous guests. It's pretty cool. I love just the desire to want to learn and build people up. So that's awesome. But yeah, I mean, a little bit about me. I had some traumatic experiences that happened to me as a kid, and they kind of forced me to mature or start to question things at an early life. And we can get into the details during this if we want to, but long story short, I found myself to be depressed and just kind of lacking purpose and lacking belonging on this planet. And again, long story short, I had a mentor of mine who this was kind of early high school, who was an entrepreneur. And while I had no idea what an entrepreneur was or what entrepreneurship even is, being at that age, I looked at his life and noticed that he was often happy, but not just happy like, today is a good day, but like fulfilled in life, right? Like
Mm.
sustained happiness, and people are always saying good stuff about him. And so, by being kind of inspired to kind of look at, what about him, makes him and his family like rich, not from a monetary standpoint, but rich in life. I kind of wanted to study what this word entrepreneurship is, what that means. And through my research, I found that entrepreneurship at its core is about serving others, and so that kind of was therapeutic to me in my depression. And so that was
Mm.
kind of my first little taste. I had a first little taste of entrepreneurship with a skateboard company, and that was kind of my start into entrepreneurship and my story.
Cool. Yeah. And as they say, the best way to create happiness in yourself is to create happiness in others. So like that seems to
Absolutely,
be what your drive is. Yeah. And it shows
absolutely,
as well that you are also like your mentor now. That same vibe comes from you
absolutely, 100%, man. It
about being
you know like
fulfilled.
like Yeah, like I was just in Spain giving a short talk, and one of the things I said was like, when I was depressed, the questions that I was asking were, how can I make myself happy? How can I make myself better? But like you can't really blame me because like I was depressed. But if you like flip the script is kind of like what I like to say and start asking, well, how can I make someone else happy or how can I teach someone else something? Then it makes me and you can probably relate more fulfilled and alive than any other party or anything that you might have experienced. Just that
Yeah.
real raw human to human connection.
Yeah, yeah, that's really inspiring. And what I find so inspiring is how early you started to make changes. It's
I
because there
mean,
would probably have been perceptions of that you couldn't do it at that age.
dude, yeah. I mean, I have I don't know if you can see it, but I have a tattoo of an alien. I felt very alienated in high school just with,
Right.
all these things. But I mean, honestly, like, this is why, my nonprofit, we're an educational nonprofit for young students, and we constantly preach, get a mentor, find people you can leverage their experience and their perspectives and their different, ways of looking at life and different ways of looking at barriers or challenges. And so honestly, like, yes, I worked hard and, I spent a lot of time researching and traveling and being a student of the world is kind of like what I like to say, but I'm very thankful for my mentors and my association, kind of who I had around me to kind of keep me accountable and keep making sure that I was improving day by day.
Yeah, yeah. Mentor is so important. Like that, I didn't. I had my dad. I was very lucky as a mentor. Um, Outside of my family, though, I didn't have someone as a mentor, so I was kind of searching for that as well as having my dad. It's good to have more than one mentor, I think, and but have that one core mentor that's aligned with your vision and purpose and passion.
Exactly.
So your
Exactly.
dad doesn't always have the exact vision that you have. So
Right.
my dad's helped me in many ways, like has led me in the right direction towards entrepreneurship and everything. But like, there's obviously going to be other people who have fed me from what I'm really about as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude, 100%. Like I just mentioned a quote, be a student of the world, not only a student of the classroom. Like if you think about like every single person that you meet, they can teach you something or offer a new perspective or teach you a story that can inspire you or give you some nugget of wisdom or some practical advice. And if you think about like, the people listening to this podcast or, me, the amount of people that I meet on a daily, weekly, monthly, or even a yearly basis, like, and then when we think about like Google in our pocket, like there's an infinite amount of knowledge and perspective and different pieces of wisdom that we can
Mm.
gather. And it really comes down to us humans just being genuinely curious. Jordan Paris, he's kind of a young entrepreneur, which you should totally have him on this call or on this podcast. But he's
Okay.
always talking about be curious, be curious. Yeah, curiosity is a genuine curiosity is a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it shows, I think both of us have that.
Yes, yes. And your Facebook group, like it's literally all centered around curiosity and knowledge awareness and how can we kind of share each other's share what the different nuggets of wisdom that we're sharing, iron sharpens iron type of thing and like
Yeah.
that's a good strong community. Like that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And it's good to have you as part of it. I was reading one of your posts and I seen that you had a to-do list for your day, and one of those lists were to finish a few books you're reading. So I was like, I'll add you into this group.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So how was Madrid actually? Because I seen that you were speaking to quite a large group of people there.
Yeah, Madrid was amazing. So there was a festival called Unleash Festival, which is the world's largest talent festival. I think it's just the largest in Madrid or Spain. But essentially what it was like 1,600 young entrepreneurs, artists, and professionals. And, my keynote was essentially sharing my story, sharing different things that I've learned through my journey. But yeah, man, Spain was amazing. This was my first time in Spain, actually first time in Europe, and being able to see just the different cultural differences or the different infrastructure differences or the different way of looking at things that, the Spaniard might have compared to us. Like, for example, short little thing that I just kind of noticed, pretty much all of them are driving stick shift cars, right? And
Okay.
whether you drive a stick shift or whether you're in a street with driving stick shift, sometimes like you might stall the car or something like that. Well, in Spain they would stall their car probably 7 times a drive, and sometimes in the middle of the street where there's like all these cars, but no one would be honking. No one was like stressing out that they're 5 minutes late to their meeting. And if you study like Spaniard culture, it's a lot more laid back. Actually,
Mm.
you don't find many clocks in businesses and stores and different things because they're not, like me as an American, I'm constantly checking my watch. Right, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Right, and maybe not even American and Western culture in general, but yeah, it was really interesting to kind of notice the different cultural differences, and I'm super blessed that I was able to go.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think that's maybe brushed off on you because we had to readjust the timing of this slightly.
Yes, yes,
But yeah,
100%.
it's cool. Like I had in my mind 2:30 GMT because I usually do it 2 p.m.
Mm,
But
okay,
we done it at 3:30 p.m. It doesn't really matter because this is what I had planned to focus on anyway.
sure.
So yeah. um, I totally agree with that. That there is a more laid back culture, and even all the European countries are in sort of Italy. I did a trip around Europe, and I got that same feeling that we're so up tense and uptight in the UK and even America. Then
Mm,
we could take some of that.
yeah, 100%.
So one of the questions I wanted to ask you as well is, I think you were speaking to over 1,000 people. How do
Yep.
you prepare for that in terms of nerves? Um, Prepare for a keynote. Yeah. How do you face that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Well, to be, transparent, that was a leap in speaking. Like before then, the largest audience that I had spoken to was maybe like 500, 600. So 1,600 was definitely a leap, which I was pretty excited for, but
Mhm.
definitely pretty nervous. But
Okay.
my mindset going into a talk or whatever, or something, maybe a business presentation, is I leverage those nerves because if you're nervous, that just means you want it to be a quality. You just want to do well. And so as long as you don't let your nerves, cloud your thinking and overwhelm, your ability to perform in the way that you can, just kind of letting them just kind of be there a little bit just so that you do a good job. In fact, just when like I was supposed to go at like 3 p.m. and I didn't actually go on stage so like 3:30, 3:45. So I just sat in the backstage for like 35 minutes, literally just like counting my watch. And towards the end of it, I was like, I just want to go out there and give the talk. So nerves was definitely a real thing. But once I started going out there, I just started flowing. But Kyle Lacey, he's a pretty big marketer here in Indianapolis, and he's got kind of a basic philosophy for preparing a keynote. Essentially what it is don't memorize it, but just have memorize or have a strong understanding of like 4 to 5 main points, your 4 to 5 main points that you want to get across, and the different stories, the different
Mhm.
examples that you need to have within there. But just have an idea of those 4 to 5 main things that you want someone to leave with, or maybe it's just 2 to 3. Those 2 to 3 things, whether it's a quote or a concept or a little dose of inspiration, specifically whatever those 2 to 3 things that you want your audience to leave with after your talk. Focus on those things because it's really kind of difficult sometimes to think, okay, what information I want to put in this, what stories, what, because it was only a 30-minute keynote, and so it was pretty difficult. But once I was just kind of able to understand, okay, what are the 2 to 3 main things that I really want people to leave with in my talk, it was pretty simple. And then also on Leash Festival, they gave us some very basic guidelines on what they would recommend for the keynote structure, which was super helpful.
Yeah. And how long did you get for speaking?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Yeah. So yeah, you've got the 4 points. You'll be in flowing, I guess, in between all those 4 points, but you have to kind of be careful with your time and prepare
Yes.
beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, like I typically talk a little faster, so I kind of had to take that into consideration, with preparing my talk. But then also, for like a couple hours right before my talk, I was talking to a couple of the speakers, and my talk was on the first day, and we thought that there was going to be a translator in the audience because the whole conference was in English, but it's all Spaniards. So we thought there was going to be a translator, which that adds a whole lot more time because you have to like wait for them to translate. So I
Right.
was expecting there to be a translator, but there wasn't. So it was a really good talk, and I actually just
Right.
recently got back all the video footage, which is pretty cool to
Yeah.
rewatch and everything.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting and well done for pulling it out the bag.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was
Yeah.
really exciting. I'm excited to leverage all the content and
Yeah.
really kind of put it out there to get more opportunities like this. Because I mean, there's a lot of just like there's a lot of conferences who they would cover your flights, cover your hotels, and have you keynote at their own conference. So I just plan to really leverage that content to get more opportunities like this.
Yeah. And going back to what you said, I explained that I really like your story about the idea that where the drive comes from is from basically being depressed and unhappy at a stage and using that as your driving force. So where did you use, like, what caused the depression, but more so like how did you use that, and when did things start to change? Just for someone else that might be in that situation that wants that kind of hope. Whoops, I've lost you. So yeah, do you want to continue what you were saying, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mentioned I kind of had some traumatic experiences as a kid and had depression in early high school, had an attempt on my life and by the grace of God or the universe, whatever, you might believe, I survived. And so after that experience, with some help of like some counselors, really started to look deeper into like human nature and like what it means to feel fulfilled and purpose. And kind of through those experiences, talking with people, came across a quote by a poet by the name of Ralph Waldo Emerson. And the quote goes, "The purpose of life is not to be happy, but it is to be useful, to be honorable, and to be compassionate, and to know that you have lived, or to know that you have made some difference in the life that you have lived." And, that kind of really, elevated my vision for myself and then elevated my vision for like the world around me. And then there's another quote that like I really, really often go to. It's by a philanthropist from the 1700s. It goes, and this quote honestly summarizes my entire perspective on entrepreneurship and my place in the world, right? My purpose. It goes, "To do something, however small, to make others happier and better is the highest ambition, the most elevating hope which can inspire a human being." And so, I mentioned I started a skateboard company in high school and it failed. I had a loss of $8,000, all my own money. But although it closed with a deficit, I was drawn to entrepreneurship because how much I saw the impact of my life positively, and then how much I saw I was able to use entrepreneurship as a tool or a medium to impact other people. And going back to those two quotes, I could feel useful. I could feel like I'm making an impact, even if it's small. Like I'm not going to take credit for people's, whatever. But if I can just have a small impact, then I feel that. And when I lay my head on my pillow at nighttime, I feel like that day was successful and accomplishable, not in terms of like, my glory and gratification, but in terms of like, I had an impact, I had a footprint, and, I feel good about it. That I have a tattoo on, my hand, the chemical structure for serotonin. And, if you study, like a lot of scientists theorize that this chemical is what, kind of triggers people to feel fulfilled and kind of feel happy. A lot of people call it the happiness chemical. It regulates your mood, anxiety. Well, one of the ways that scientists theorize you can trigger this chemical in your brain, because our brain often works in if-then sequences. If this happens in your life, then you feel this, or then there's this chemical reaction. But one of the ways you can trigger this chemical, serotonin, is by doing something for someone else, right? So if you hold the door open for someone and they feel good and they smile, that makes you feel kind of internally good inside. Or maybe you do something and someone sends you a message and they say, "Hey man, your podcast or that little dose of message that you sent me made me feel good." When you feel good in return, that's serotonin being released in your brain. So just kind of constantly considering, how can I leave an impact on the world, and the people around me. When I finished my quote in Madrid, Spain, the last thing that I said was, what do you want to be known for, in terms of like legacy, right? When I don't want to get too more. Hey, what's up? I don't want to get too morbid, but when I die, how many people are going to be at my funeral? And then 15 years after I die, how many people are going to remember me? So just different kind of things to consider when it comes to legacy and, your purpose that I'm, constantly thinking about, or that we're constantly talking with other young people.
Yeah. She's famous.
Hi.
Right. You going to see, man?
We have a special guest. So we had a special guest there.
Yeah, we had an additional special guest. Yeah, she's always wanted to come on my lives.
That's awesome. That is so great.
Always knocking on the door. Yeah, wanting involved in the business.
This is totally off subject, but did you ever see that interview of the guy in the UK who was like a newscaster, and his kid came in and went viral?
He just totally ignored it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Yeah. I think he reacted the worst way to like go, just like totally blanket.
Right, yeah, like just embrace like you did. You picked up your child and it was sweet, it was cute, it's awesome.
Yeah, and she's gets to be famous as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a really inspiring story. I'm sure my sister has a similar tattoo to yours,
Mm,
um,
mm,
and she's been through that as well. So
mm.
it's a good reminder for you. And so when you were saying, when you get that message from someone saying, "Here's where I was. I listened to you, followed through on your advice," and they're coming back full circle to thank you and give you that gratitude. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. I,
is amazing
Aristotle,
when that happens. Yeah,
exactly. Aristotle has a philosophy that I like to ascribe to called, or concept I like to ascribe to called the prime mover. And essentially what it means is every effect in the world, every causality can be traced back to some, or every effect in the world can be traced back to some causality, right? And so, whether it was my dad introducing me to a mentor who gave me a dose of inspiration to help me go do X, my dad was kind of the first prime mover in that. Or if I can, give someone else a dose of inspiration, give them a piece of advice or funding, my nonprofit, we have a seed fund for young entrepreneurs, whatever it is that the person, the individual needs to continue going on their trajectory of greatness, or, whatever they want to be. If I can just influence something tiny, maybe it's not even me, maybe I connect them with someone, that in turn makes me feel good, because I know, it's the domino effect. It's the butterfly taking effect. And so, yeah, man, that's, that's kind of the big motivator for sure.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because you do come across as a very driven person,
Thank you.
and consistent as well, which is unusual, because like
Thank you.
there
I
might be
appreciate that.
people who have like a moment of inspiration, but yours is it seems eternal. Like kind of you're not going anywhere. You're only going up a step, and that's inspiring to see. It's good to see someone so driven, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you say. It sounds like you're into philosophy as well. You're reading into a lot of philosophers like
Yes.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, Aristotle. That's a
Jordan
big passion of
Peterson.
mine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
And I feel like that's where we have like a mutual interest,
Yes.
beyond just personal development. It's going back to the source of these ancient philosophers, and they have some real wisdom to share.
Yeah, dude. I mean, think about, you're familiar with Simon Sinek, right? We start with
Say
why.
again?
Simon Sinek.
Yes, yes.
Okay. When I don't know how old he is right now, but let's say 100 years from now, I believe that people like John Maxwell, Simon Sinek, these just great people, Sheryl Sandberg, these great, amazing people with great messages. Naval, I can't pronounce his last name, but these people are going to be the people that are going to be quoted 50 to 100 to 150 years from now, the way we might quote, Aristotle, that's quite a long time ago and quite a large name, but, it kind of is inspirational when we think about Simon Sinek and, just all these people who their message transcends generation. And that's just really cool,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's like what, like 2000 to 3000 years ago these guys are coming from. So
Right.
yeah,
And here
like
we are talking about him, quoting them that is,
yeah,
I don't know, man. It's just really interesting, the way messages and information can transcend. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate to learn stuff from you, to learn from people in your Facebook group, to read books, is because if I can acquire information and perspectives and then reshare them, retell them, inspire the people, educate people, then
yeah,
I can leave a footprint on the earth, which is really motivating.
yeah. And I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Is this is just off the top of my head, but
Sure.
the idea that content, a lot of the information and content and knowledge and books that we're reading, there's very well marketed books, and this is why I set up Ben's Business Book Club. Some of the information's like as old as the hills, like from the Bible, from the Quran, from the old philosophies,
Right.
and a lot is regurgitated through time. There is the best wisdom's like the new wisdom that like us we're creating today. That's the best wisdom that we come in tension and moments where we have to create genius.
Right.
It's not this regurgitated information, because it's always been there, and it's all like
Great
it's
point.
organized by Google as well.
That's actually a great point. Yeah, I really appreciate that perspective.
Yeah, so like that's what I created Ben's Business Book Club for, was to go like what is really the best books and the ones that have stood the test of time, because I remember Ty Lopez, you've probably heard of him here in
Yep.
my garage. Um, he said that you've got about 100 books to read in your lifetime, but not just to read, to study. So
Mm,
if you go deeply into you choose your 100 books wisely and go
right.
very deeply into them. And I thought that was a really good point. So it really made me focus down on how do I get a group of people together telling me
Mm.
what really good books actually are, because there's Amazon reviews, there's great marketing that will market really crap books, whereas you can get this community and going, no, that book sucks. Actually, it's got a great funnel, but
Dude,
it's
I love
actually
that.
bad.
I love that because, like, I mentioned John Maxwell earlier, and he's probably written, I don't even know how many dozens of books he's written, but some people say he's only written actually about 3 or 4 books, even though he's written like about 20. It's kind of like
Yeah,
regurgitated
yeah,
information. If you just read the 1 or 2, kind of
yes.
the top of it, exactly.
You spend your life reading the wrong books, and
Exactly.
you have to be really careful. Yeah, it's the same with social media.
True.
Uh,
That's fact right there.
yeah,
So
you can
true.
you watch the wrong videos over and over, and it's the same information.
Intentional with your consumption.
Yeah, exactly. So that's bringing on to social media. I'm very interested in how you've created such exposure for yourself and all the press, all the Huffington Post, Forbes magazine. How do you think, although being great, but on top of that, how do you encourage this kind of exposure?
Sure. So I had an opportunity that I'm very thankful for to spend some time with Seth Godin in New York City. And one of the things that he taught me was every single person in the world wants to increase their status. And they want to increase their status in different ways. They want to increase their status to their colleagues, to their friends, or the family, one of those. And there's different things that will increase their status. Like for me, for example, if you want to increase my status, put me on your podcast. Like I'm going to say yes to that instantly, right?
Yeah,
For people in the media, for people who, journalists who are wanting these stories to increase their status, is you give them a good story, a good angle that's going to get them good clicks, and so it's going to make them look good to their boss, and they're going to get better opportunities, right? It's just like the greatest employees are the employees that are constantly making their boss look good, constantly making sure that their boss gets a raise, right? And then that transcends through them. So I just kind of, through the help of people like Dennis Yu, who's top marketer in the world, learned how to kind of package my story in a short, succinct, but inspirational way, so that when I, because on Facebook advertising, you can target like job titles, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
if I could target people who worked at Huffington Post or who were journalists, job titles, etc., but targeted them with like something like called a why video, which is basically in a minute and a half, I define my purpose, my passion, et cetera, which I can see. If you go to blitzmetrics.com/why, there's an incredible amount of information on how to shoot your why video. And actually, just a tangent, I used to run a marketing agency, and one of the most consistent pieces of content that we saw, all types of industries, was a why video. And so if I could if I could put an inspirational story in a why video, but then also get some social proof, like maybe get 10,000 views on it or whatever, a couple hundred likes or something, and then
yeah,
target that video to someone in the media, they're going to
right,
they're going to reach out to me because they think it's their idea. They see the lot of views on the video, so therefore there's social proof. They think that
yeah,
it's proof that people are interested in me, and then
yeah,
they watch the video and it's something interesting or inspirational. The chances of them reaching out at either in that moment or within a couple months are very high. And so and then once
yeah,
I got those articles, those pieces, I shared them all over social media. I constantly gave the journalist credit, constantly tagged them, constantly let them ride the wave with me. So then they
yeah,
would keep writing stuff about me. Or, a lot of journalists, they have friends who work at other pubs, and they introduce me to another friend. So, just kind of being this like ecosystem of growth for everyone will kind of in turn create inbound growth for you, because people want to ride that wave with you.
yeah. Yeah, that's really, really clever. I'm really interested in, so what could you explain what a why video is again?
Yep.
Just a wee bit, expand on that a wee bit, yeah.
100%. And again, like from all the way to Fortune 1, like GoDaddy, we were at GoDaddy headquarters one time shooting why videos for the community or the head of community at GoDaddy, and then the CMO of GoDaddy. So all the way up to large companies down to a realtor in his local town. A why video can be one of the most important pieces of content that you put out there, because if you're going back to the golden circle with Simon Sinek, everyone knows what you do. Everyone knows maybe how you do it, maybe how you're different, etc. but very few people know the why. Why do you do it?
Right.
What's the inner passion? What's the purpose? What's the origin story? Oh, when you're in college, this person says something to you, or you saw this person get affected negatively in this way, and then 4 years later you create a product. Or maybe you personally, you were affected in some way by something in the marketplace or in the world, and then a couple years later or 6 months later you create a product to fill that need. Those stories, the origin stories, make what you're doing make so much sense to people, right? In marketing, we're constantly building trust, building rapport, building credibility, building the reason for why we are the ones who can have a nonprofit or have a podcast or et cetera, et cetera. And when we can tell that origin story, then it just makes sense to people. They get it, and it's easier for them to click share. It's easier for them to be a fan of you after seeing your why video. And if you think about like social media today, people treat it like a buffet, right? They want the stories, the pieces of food that is going to inspire them the most, that are going to educate them the most, that's going to make them feel good. When someone shares a video on their feed, if that video makes them look cool or aware or inspirational to their friends, then it's a win-win, because you're helping them look good to their friends, and you're also winning because you have a share. So yeah, man, treating social media kind of like a buffet, and just kind of leveraging that story in the why videos can be super important.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad I got you to expand on that. That's really interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's literally the whole weekend just there. I was learning about connecting and getting clarity on that why. Because it's like, I've read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and
such a good book.
Yeah, it's a really good book, and you feel extremely fired up after reading it. But what this workshop I was at doing was about really technicalities of really connecting to that on a daily basis. So it was like taking that Start With Why and making it very practical. So it's really a penny just dropped there. Just so for me, a penny dropped, and hopefully for everyone else that's watching this, they get the same thing.
Yeah, man.
The same lesson. Yeah. Cool. That was actually, I'm going to ask a different question, but that actually, back to what we've talked about there. So like, if you have a why video, basically getting your clarity and your purpose of what your why is first, creating a video from that, getting it out to people who are influencers already and who can get you exposure. Is that the one route that you take, or do you think, because you've obviously got your, what's your name, your digital marketing agency, you do social media marketing with Facebook ads and funnels. So with that video, would you then optimize it further with a funnel with Facebook ads to get it going, to create that viral effect, or are you doing it manually through other outlets?
100%. I definitely do leverage the why video in the funnel. In fact, there's kind of a very basic way that we will sometimes explain the funnel as awareness, engagement, and conversion, right? The awareness content, because when people first hear about your business, they don't want to be sold. They don't want to hear about the features of your company. They don't care. They don't know why they should care about you and your company or your product, or why you're trying to do what you do. Because again, at the end of the day, people don't want to be sold. They want to be inspired. They want to be educated, etc. But if you have a why video that shares your story, that shares this passion about why you started your company, let's say that why video gets 15,000 views. But if you create a custom audience, right, off of that video, let's say the people who watch 25% of that video, let's say it's 4,000 people. Well, if you retarget those 4,000 people with content, the engagement level, right, and then the conversion level, those people are going to be the ones who are going to be actually making actions and actually taking conversion, or actually following the call to action that you're putting out there. A kind of a consumer psychological understanding that I've developed from Dennis Yu is there's like 4 questions that consumers need answered in their head before they're ever going to buy from you, support you, be a fan of you. And that's: who are you? Why do you do what you do? Why should I care? And why should I care right now? And if you can answer those questions in a kind of a, I want to say chronological order, but I don't want to say chronological order, but almost in that way, and not reverse it, then consumers, they feel like they're in control of the learning process of who they are. So therefore they feel more empowered. And then they also don't feel like, again, they're being sold. Consumers, they never want to feel like they're being sold. I guess, unless you're in B2B, they kind of might want to feel pampered or whatever. But typically, working with consumers, they want to feel like they're in control of the process, go on making the decisions, even though you're sending them down a funnel, sending them specific pieces of information that's influencing their train of thought and how you work. So 100% with the digital funnel, awareness, engagement, conversion. One of the ways we kind of like to break that down, awareness, it was 100% story. So live video, for example. Engagement, the engagement level, that middle tier is 50% story, 50% product. So it's, maybe that's, you're sharing an example of how your product helps this person in this specific demographic, et cetera. And then the third level is conversion, which is just 100% story. 100% product. I'm sorry. This could be like a testimonial where it's just one of your users saying, hey, here's how much this product has helped me. It's helped me because of X and Y and Z, and it's amazing. Yeah. And if you can send people down that funnel in that kind of fashion, then by the time they're at that third level where they're actually being sold on the product, the chances of them buying your product are much higher. In fact, there's a stat, this was 2 years ago, I don't know what it is now, but 2 years ago, 70% of conversions came from retargeting. When someone visits your website, you retarget them. When someone watches your video, you retarget them, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's really interesting. So funnels, how do they work?
That's, I mean,
a whole story.
Yeah, I mean, are you familiar with custom audiences?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And by the way, I have another podcast in about 10 or 15 minutes or so.
Cool.
So essentially with custom audiences, you're bucketing people, right? So when someone watches your Y video or some other pieces of content, when you create a custom audience, and then let's say off people watch maybe 25% of your video or 50% of your video, it really depends. If you have a 1 minute video, the people watch 25% of that video. Those are pretty significant viewers because the average watch time on Facebook is 6 seconds. So,
right.
If you could bucket people more than just 3 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds, etc. Those people have a higher inclination to actually be interested in your product, and so you just kind of further sending them down the funnel, awareness, engagement, conversion, and so on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So. The last question. So sure. I think we both need to go. So if someone was to start, like say a beginner was wanting to get started on Facebook ads, I think that's sure. a big issue people have is if they want to get started on Facebook ads, they have a business, they want to promote it with Facebook ads. What would be your sort of best advice and tips for someone doing that?
Ben, that's a great question. My advice for someone who was starting out on Facebook advertising would be invest in video and invest in storytelling in video. In my experience from working with Blitz Metrics, where some of their digital marketing clients were the Golden State Warriors, where they'd spend $20,000 a day during the preseason selling tickets, or all the way down to again, just local small businesses, small or mom and pop shops. The stories. And when you can eloquently explain and message your product or the reason why you exist for this customer or this demographic through the form of stories like testimonials, those types of pieces of content just transcend. I mean, they perform really, really well. And then if you start to learn how to iterating content and iterating ads is a whole new thing, but it is a whole different thing. I mean, but if you can just focus on, okay, how can you share your story, your why, your different employees' whys, because every single person at your company can have their own why. Capture their stories and videos, then you can do pretty well. And again, blitzmetrics.com/why for how to shoot a why video. For example, a lot of people when they start a video, they start to introduce themselves. Hi, my name is Jeremy Miller. I'm the vice president. No one cares who I am, but if I start out with, when I was 16 years old, I was depressed and I found entrepreneurship, blah, blah. You're like, oh, I know this is going to be a story. I'm interested, and so on, so on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. And thanks a lot for your time. One
Absolutely.
thing,
yes.
The book club, favorite book?
So we've already talked about Start With Why, so I won't mention that one. Probably I'll say two, either Intentional Living by John Maxwell or The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Yeah, Compound Effects. Brilliant. Yeah.
Such a good book. All right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Cheers.